I'm Willa Mayers. I'm 33 years old. 19 months ago, I packed everything I owned into a rented U-Haul trailer and drove 2,100 miles from Columbus, Ohio to Portland, Oregon. I didn't tell my mother. I didn't tell my sister. I didn't tell anyone in my family. I just left. I kept the same phone number I'd had for 12 years. If anyone wanted to reach me, they could have. For 19 months, not one of them called. Not on my birthday. Not on Thanksgiving. Not on Christmas. Not once. Then one weekend, my sister showed up at my old apartment because she needed a babysitter. That was the moment everything changed. Within 48 hours, my mother left me 47 voicemails. Not one asked if I was safe. Not one asked if I was okay. Every single one told me what a selfish daughter I was. I never called her back. Instead, I mailed one box. And when my family opened it, they didn't come after me. They came after each other. Before I tell you exactly how it got to that point, take a second to like and subscribe and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. Now let me take you back to the night I realized I had been invisible in my own family my entire life. I was 14 years old. My father had been dead for 3 weeks. The house smelled like casserole dishes. People kept dropping off even though nobody in the house was eating, and carpet cleaner that couldn't cover the heaviness in the air. My mother sat on the couch in the living room wearing the same bathrobe she had worn the day before, and the day before that. The television was off, but she stared at it anyway like something might appear there and explain how to keep going. My little sister Cara was 10. She stood in the kitchen doorway with her bottom lip trembling and her stomach growling loud enough for me to hear it from across the room. "I'm hungry," she said. I waited for my mother to move. She didn't. Cara tried again. "Mom, I'm hungry." Nothing. So I opened the pantry. There was a box of macaroni and cheese inside. I had never made dinner by myself before. I read the instructions off the back of the box one line at a time. I boiled water. I stirred noodles. I tore the cheese packet wrong and yellow powder spilled down the front of my shirt. I made 2 bowls, one for Cara and one for my mother. Cara sat at the table and ate fast like she was afraid the food might disappear. My mother took her bowl without looking up. "Finally, someone's being useful," she said. That was it. No thank you, no are you okay. No acknowledgement that I had buried my father 3 weeks earlier and was now standing in a kitchen at 14 years old trying to keep the whole house from collapsing. After they ate, I washed the pot. I washed the bowls. I wiped down the counter with an old sponge that smelled like mildew. I remember standing there with dishwater dripping from my hands and thinking I needed to buy a new sponge. I was 14 years old and already keeping a list in my head of things no one else was going to do. That was the night it happened. That was the moment I became the person who held the family together. I didn't volunteer for it. Nobody asked me. It just happened. And once it starts, you don't realize how hard it is to stop. Fast forward 17 years. I was 31, living 12 minutes from my mother's house, in a 1-bedroom apartment I paid for entirely by myself. I worked as a project manager at a small construction firm in Columbus. I was good at my job because I had to be. I was organized, reliable, detail-oriented, calm under pressure. And then I would come home and work my second job, the unpaid one. On Sunday nights, I opened my Google Calendar and looked at a life that didn't belong to me. Blue was Mom. Her doctor appointments twice a month because she said she couldn't keep track. Green was Cara's kids. Pick up Lily from school Tuesdays and Thursdays. Cover Mason's half-days. Help when Oliver got sick. Yellow was Saturday babysitting. All 3 kids every weekend so Cara and her husband Drew could have date night or errands or rest or whatever else they needed. Red was holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, every birthday. I planned the menus. I bought the gifts, I cooked, I cleaned. I made everything happen, and then disappeared into the background like staff after an event. One Sunday night, I scrolled through 3 straight months of calendar entries, and every single one had somebody else's name on it. Not one was mine. That was when I started looking farther back. In the previous year, I had made plans to have lunch with my college friend Denise 4 different times and canceled every single one. Twice because Kara texted me the night before asking if I could take the kids. Once because my mother said she was having a bad day and needed company. Once because Oliver got sick at daycare and Kara said she couldn't leave work. I kept scrolling. 6 months. Same pattern, 12 months. Same pattern, my phone buzzed. A text from Kara. Can you do Saturday and Sunday this weekend? Drew's in Detroit. I typed one word. Sure, I hit send. She never replied. No thank you. No how are you. No acknowledgement that she had just assumed my entire weekend belonged to her, and that assumption had been correct, because I always said yes. I closed the calendar and stared at my reflection in the dark laptop screen, and for the first time, a thought entered my mind that I could not unthink. When was the last time someone made space for me without needing something in return? The answer came to me immediately. March 12, my birthday. I turned 31 that year. I woke up and checked my phone. Nothing. I checked again after I got dressed. Nothing. I drove to work and checked at lunch. Still nothing. Not a text, not a voicemail. Not even one of those lazy social media birthday messages people send when an app reminds them you exist. Of course, I had deactivated Facebook 2 months earlier, and nobody had noticed that either. After work, I stopped at a bakery and bought myself a single red velvet cupcake. I sat in my car in the parking lot and ate it alone. At 7:15, my phone rang. Mom. For half a second, I felt my chest lift. Maybe she remembered. Maybe she was calling to surprise me. Maybe for once I was about to matter without having to earn it. I answered. Willa, I need you to run to CVS. My prescription is ready, and they close at 8. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my hand hurt. It's my birthday today, Mom. There was a pause. Not a guilty one. Not even an awkward one, just blank. Oh, happy birthday, she said. Did you pick up the prescription? I drove to CVS. I picked up her blood pressure medication. I dropped it off at her house. She took the bag and said thanks, honey, and shut the door. She didn't invite me in. She didn't mention my birthday again. She didn't offer cake or ask how my day had been. I sat in her driveway with the engine running and the headlights pointed at her garage door, and something inside me finally gave way. I didn't cry. I've never really been a crier. But it felt like some internal cable that had been carrying too much weight for too long had snapped clean in half. That night at 11 p.m. I opened my laptop and typed apartments in Portland, Oregon into a search bar. I had never been to Portland. I didn't know anyone there. But it was 2,100 miles from my mother's driveway, and in that moment that sounded exactly right. I didn't move on impulse. I planned, but before I made any decisions, I ran an experiment. Starting the next morning, I changed one thing. Instead of waiting for people to need me, I reached out first, not to organize anything, not to solve anything, not to offer help, just to connect. March 13, I texted Mom. Want to grab lunch Saturday? Just us. No reply. March 19, I texted Kara. Hey, how are you? We haven't really talked in a while, she replied. Can't, kids are crazy, and then nothing else. March 26, I texted Drew. How's the new project going? He saw it. He never answered. I kept going. April, May, June, July, August. Every week I sent something. Want to catch a movie? How's Mason's ear infection? Mom, I tried a new recipe. Want to come over? Kara. I miss you. Let's do something. Just us. I took screenshots of every message. Not because I was building a case against anyone. I was. At least not then. I just needed proof for myself that I wasn't imagining it. I needed to see that I was reaching and reaching and reaching, and every time my hand closed around nothing. By the end of August, I counted them. 214 messages sent, 11 replies, all short. All logistical, none asking how I was, 203 ignored. That same night, I found a job listing in Portland. Project coordinator at a mid-size construction firm. Same pay, full benefits. Start date October 1. The application took 20 minutes. I submitted it before I could talk myself out of it. In September, I got the offer. I accepted. I gave my notice at work. My boss, Greg, shook my hand and said Portland is lucky to have you. 5 simple words from a man I had worked with for 3 years. More genuine acknowledgement than my family had given me in 17. I packed my apartment in stages, boxes in the living room, furniture sold off piece by piece to strangers from Craigslist. I filled out a mail forwarding form with USPS. I quietly erased every trace of myself from a city where nobody had really seen me anyway. The one thing I did not change was my phone number. Same number, same line, same chance to reach me. I wasn't hiding. I was just done chasing. The night before I left Ohio, I drove past my mother's house one last time. The lights were on in the living room, and I could see the glow of the television through the curtains. I could have pulled over. I could have knocked. I could have said goodbye. I kept driving. On September 28, I hit the road. Indiana, Iowa, Nebraska, Wyoming, Idaho. 3 days of interstate exits and truck stop coffee and rest area naps. I listened to podcasts until I didn't want any voices in the car anymore, and then I drove in silence. Somewhere in Wyoming, I rolled down the windows and screamed into the wind for no reason except that I could. It felt like something leaving my body. On October 1, I arrived in Portland. It was raining. I parked outside my new apartment, a second-floor unit in a quiet neighborhood with a Japanese maple in the yard, and sat behind the wheel for a full minute with both hands resting in my lap. Then I took a breath, a real one, no phone buzzing, no calendar reminders, no one needing a favor, no one waiting to hand me the next responsibility. I had not slammed the door on anyone. I had simply stopped holding it open. The first month I checked my phone every morning. Nothing from Ohio. I told myself it was early, maybe people were busy. Maybe Kara had the kids all over the place. Maybe Mom was in one of her moods and not talking to anyone. By month 2, Thanksgiving came. I sat alone in my apartment with a rotisserie chicken and canned cranberry sauce, and my phone stayed silent. No one texted to ask where I was. No one noticed an empty chair. And then a terrible thought occurred to me. They probably didn't even have Thanksgiving that year. I had always been the one who organized it. If I didn't plan the meal, there was no meal. If I didn't make the list, nobody bought the food. If I didn't cook, there was nothing on the table. Without me, there was no tradition, and nobody thought to ask why. Month 3 brought my birthday again, March 12. I turned 32. I bought myself another red velvet cupcake, same chain bakery, different state. This time I ate it on my couch instead of in a parking lot. That felt like progress. My phone was silent. Month 4, I met Naomi Park at work. She was 34, a senior designer, sharp, funny, observant, and kind in a way that never felt invasive. On my 3rd week, she stopped by my desk and asked, "How was your weekend?" I opened my mouth to answer and almost cried. Not because the question was emotional. Because nobody had asked me that in years, and then actually waited to hear the answer. Month 5, Naomi started inviting me on Saturday hikes, then to dinners with her friend group. Then to potlucks where people asked me things like, "What music do you like?" and "What do you do for fun?" I didn't always know what to say. When your life has been built around making everyone else's life easier, you don't spend much time discovering who you are outside of usefulness. Month 6, I checked an old email account and found one unread message from Kara, sent 3 weeks earlier. Subject line: July 4 weekend body, can you watch kids? July 4 Drew, S doing a thing, no greeting. No context, no how have you been. She didn't know I was gone. That was when I started therapy. My therapist gave me a journaling exercise. She told me to write 2 versions of the future. In the first one, I stayed in Ohio. So I wrote it out. If I stayed, I would still be driving my mother to appointments while she complained about the route. I would still be picking up Lily and Mason from school while Kara texted me last-minute schedule changes. I would still be babysitting every Saturday so someone else could have a life. I would be 36, then 40, then 45 with a calendar full of everyone else's names. I would lose my 30s. I was already losing them. Then she asked me to write the second version, the one where I had left. That one was harder at first because I had to admit I wanted more. But then life started answering for me. 6 months into my new job, my manager, Helen, called me into her office and said they were creating a senior project manager position, and she wanted me for it. She said, "You are the most organized person I have ever worked with." I almost laughed. I didn't tell her I had spent 17 years training for that role in a household that never put it on my resume. My life in Portland kept expanding. I signed up for pottery on Wednesday nights. I started cooking real meals for myself. I hiked with Naomi on weekends. I learned how peaceful it feels to have a home where no one enters carrying demands. For the first time in my adult life, my calendar had my own name on it. Then came month 19. One evening in April, my phone lit up with an Ohio area code. Kara. I stared at the screen until it stopped ringing. Here is what was happening on the other end. Drew was away at a 4-day engineering conference in Cleveland. Kara wanted a spa weekend with her friends. She needed child care, and she did what she had done for years. She called the number that always gave her free help. Mine, the phone rang and rang. Then she texted, "Hey, need you this weekend, call me." The message delivered. I didn't respond. I was in a pottery class in Portland with both hands covered in clay and my phone on silent in my bag. Saturday morning, she called again. Still no answer. So she drove to my old apartment in Columbus. The apartment I had not lived in for 19 months. She parked, climbed the stairs, knocked. No answer. She knocked harder. My old neighbor Ruth opened her door across the hall. "You looking for the girl in 4B?" she asked my sister Willa. Kara said. Ruth gave her a sympathetic look. "Oh, honey, she moved out a long time ago. Over a year ago at least." Kara just stared at her. "What packed a trailer one morning and left?" Ruth said. "Didn't say where. And this is the part that matters most." Kara's first reaction was not fear, not concern, not "Did she seem okay?" Not "Oh my God, is she safe?" Her first reaction was to pull out her phone and call our mother. "Did you know Willa moved?" she asked. And my mother said, "What are you talking about? 19 months. No calls, no visits, no one driving 12 minutes to check if I was alive, not until somebody needed something, and even then the first question wasn't about me. It was about what I could no longer do for them." My mother does not handle surprise well. She handles surprise by turning it into an offense against herself. Within the hour, she started calling me. The same number she had possessed the entire time. The same number she could have dialed on any one of the previous 577 days. I was sitting on my couch in Portland reading when her name flashed across the screen. I let it ring. She called again, and then the voicemails began. "Willa, where are you? Call me back immediately. How dare you leave without telling your mother? You are the most selfish person I have ever raised. Your father would be ashamed of you. I'm telling everyone. What kind of daughter you really are after everything I sacrificed for you. If you don't call me back, you are dead to this family." 47 voicemails between Friday night and Sunday evening. I listened to every single one, and as I wrote down what she said, something became painfully clear. Not one message asked if I was safe. Not one asked if I was okay. Not one contained the words, "I'm worried about you." Every message was about her, what I had done to her, what I owed her, how I had embarrassed her. 47 messages, zero concern. That was when I went to the closet and pulled down the folder I had brought with me from Ohio. 214 printed screenshots. I hadn't touched it since the move. Now I placed it on the table and opened it. While I sat quietly in Portland with that folder in front of me, Kara did what she always does when she needs control. She got ahead of the story. That Sunday night, she posted on Facebook. "Going through something really hard right now. When family abandons you and your children without a word, you realize who really loves you. Hug your siblings tight." The sympathy came fast. Hearts. Prayer hands. Comments from people who knew only the version she wanted them to know. "So sorry, babe, who does that to a mother of 3? You're such a strong mama." Nobody asked for my side. Nobody wondered if there might be more to the story. Then Kara called our Aunt Maggie in Pennsylvania. Maggie is my mother's older sister and the only adult in my family who ever saw my mother clearly. She cut contact with Mom years earlier for reasons my mother still refuses to name out loud. Kara told her I had vanished and abandoned the family. Maggie listened and asked one question. Did you ever call her first? What in the last year and a half did you call Willa even once just to talk? The line went quiet. Then Kara hung up. Later that evening Maggie called me. They found out, she said. I figured that out. They're not worried about you, Willa, she said. They're angry at you. I know. What are you going to do? I looked at the folder on my table. I haven't decided yet, I said. But I think I have. Now I need to tell you about Drew. My brother-in-law Drew Bellamy was not a loud man. He was quiet to the point of disappearing. A mechanical engineer. Practical, detached, always traveling for work. Not openly cruel, just absent. And when he was home, he let Kara direct the emotional weather in the house. But that Sunday night, after the voicemails and the Facebook post and the chaos, Drew did something unusual. He sat alone at the kitchen table after Kara went to bed and opened his phone. He scrolled back through old messages. Way back. He found 3 texts from me sent months apart. How's the new project going? Hope Detroit went well. Happy Father's Day. Drew. He had read all 3. He had answered none. He sat there staring at those messages, and for the first time something shifted in him. Not full guilt, not yet, but the beginning of it. The uncomfortable recognition that he had seen a hand reaching toward him and chosen to do nothing. The next morning, Kara was retelling the story again, on the phone, making me the villain of her weekend. And after she hung up, she turned to Drew and said, "Can you believe she did this?" Drew said something he had probably never said in that house before. I don't know, did we ever check on her? Kara hardened immediately. That's not the point. I think it might be, he said. She walked out. He didn't follow. And a few states away, I opened my laptop and ordered a cardboard shipping box. Medium size, just big enough to hold a thick folder and a single sheet of paper. The folder sat on my kitchen table in Portland while my family in Ohio rewrote the story of my leaving. My mother's voicemails kept coming. My sister's post kept collecting sympathy. And still not one of them asked a single real question about whether I was okay. So I opened the folder. I had organized it exactly the way I organize everything at work, by recipient, then by date. 3 sections divided by tabs: messages to Mom, 87 entries, highlighted by category, yellow for check-ins, pink for invitations, blue for meaningful personal messages. How are you feeling today? Want to get lunch Saturday? Just us. I made your pot roast recipe tonight. Wish you were here to try it. Next to each one I had written a note in the margin. No reply. Seen. No response. Then came Kara's section. 94 messages. How S. Mason's ear infection. Want to take the kids apple picking. I miss you. Let's do something. Just us. 88 ignored. Then Drew S. 33 messages. All brief, all kind, all read, all unanswered. At the bottom of each section I had listed the totals. Mom response rate 4%, Kara 6%, Drew 0%. I did not write a letter full of blame. I did not add an essay. I did not explain my pain to people who had spent years ignoring it. I placed one sheet of paper on top of the folder, one sentence. I tried 214 times. Here they are. I slid the folder into the box, closed the flaps, wrote my mother's address on the front. Put a Portland return address in the corner. Then I taped it shut and set it by the door. I didn't mail it right away. I waited because the timing mattered. A few days later, Maggie called. Your mother is planning Oliver's birthday party, she said. Big production. Your sister invited everyone. Drew's parents, Kara's friends, the neighbors, people from church. Your mother says she expects you to come to your senses and show up. I almost laughed. Then Maggie added one more thing. If you don't, she's planning to stand up in front of everyone and talk about how you abandoned the family. A little speech, in front of an audience. That sounded exactly like my mother. She was setting a stage, and I suddenly knew exactly when the box needed to arrive. Wednesday, March 12, my 33rd birthday. Nobody called. By then I no longer expected them to. I drove to the post office holding that small box against my side. The woman at the counter weighed it and asked if there was anything fragile inside. I looked at the box and said no, nothing fragile. Just the truth. She printed the label. I paid for priority shipping. She placed the package on the conveyor behind her, and just like that it was gone, moving west to east, Portland to Columbus. From the person who had tried to the people who never noticed. As I walked back to my car, the rain had stopped. That almost never happens in Portland in March. I didn't treat it like a sign. But I did breathe easier. A few minutes later my phone buzzed. Naomi, happy birthday dinner tonight, I'm cooking, I smiled. Someone who had known me 18 months remembered what my own family had forgotten 2 years in a row. That night Naomi made Thai basil chicken, and we ate on her patio under a space heater and talked about trails and work and books and nothing dramatic at all. It was one of the best birthdays I had ever had. Later that night I checked the tracking. In transit, estimated delivery Friday or Saturday. I went to bed and slept through the night. Saturday, March 15. Oliver's 3rd birthday party, my mother's house in Columbus, Ohio. I wasn't there, but I knew that house better than I knew some versions of myself. The front porch with the creaky second step. The living room that always smelled faintly of candles and old carpet. The kitchen where I made boxed macaroni at 14 while my mother sat in the dark. That day the place was decorated with dinosaur paper goods and green balloons, and a store-bought cake with blue frosting because no one knew the bakery I always used. The house was full. Drew's parents, Gerald and Linda Bellamy, Mrs. Patterson from next door, 3 women from Kara's mommy group, Pastor David and his wife Ellen. Kara moving from room to room, trying to manage 3 children while pretending she wasn't overwhelmed. Drew standing near the sliding glass door speaking as little as possible. And my mother Judith Mayers in the center of it, all dressed up and ready for an audience. On the hallway table between a bowl of keys and an old framed family photo sat my box. Return address Portland, Oregon. Unopened. Cake was served. Oliver smashed frosting into his mouth. Everyone laughed. Then my mother tapped her glass with a spoon. Before we go any further, she said, I want to say something. The room quieted. As some of you know, my older daughter Willa made a choice to leave this family without a word. She began. She moved away. We still don't know exactly where, and she has not contacted any of us in almost 2 years. Heads turned toward her. Plates paused midair. I raised that girl, she continued. I gave her everything a mother could give. A home, stability, love, and she repaid me by abandoning her mother, her sister, and these 3 beautiful children who adore her. She paused for effect. But we don't need her, we have each other. That's what family means, showing up, not running away. There were murmurs, scattered agreement, a hand on Kara's arm from one of her friends. Poor thing. You're so strong. The performance landed exactly the way my mother wanted it to. Then Gerald Bellamy pointed toward the hallway table. Judith, he said. Somebody sent you a package. Every head in the room turned. My mother walked over and picked it up. It was light enough to confuse her. She turned it in her hands and saw the return address. Kara said softly, it's from her. My mother carried it to the dining table and opened it in front of everyone. Inside was the folder, neatly tabbed, organized. On top was 1 page. She picked it up and read it out loud. I tried 214 times. Here they are. Then she opened the first section, and everything changed. At first the shift was subtle, a tiny hesitation. A flicker in her expression. Then she turned another page, and another, and another. The color left her face. Kara leaned over. What is it? My mother didn't answer. So Kara pulled the second section toward herself and saw her own name at the top of the page over screenshot after screenshot after screenshot. Hey, how are you? We haven't really talked in a while. No reply. How's Mason's ear infection? No reply. I miss you. Let's do something. Just us. No reply. 94 messages. Dated. Highlighted. Printed. Impossible to explain away all at once. Gerald Bellamy picked up Drew's section. 33 messages. All seen, all ignored. He looked at his son and Drew could not meet his eyes. The room went very still. Mrs. Patterson was the first person to speak. She said it slowly, carefully, like she already knew the answer, but needed everyone else to hear it. Judith, she texted you 87 times. My mother opened her mouth, but nothing meaningful came out. 87 times, Mrs. Patterson repeated. And you just told this room she left without a word. Linda Bellamy was still reading Drew's section. Her expression hardened more with every page. You saw these, she asked him. Drew said nothing. Pastor David quietly rose from his chair. Ellen stood with him. We should go, he said. One of Kara's friends grabbed her purse. Then another. Mrs. Patterson set her plate down and left without finishing her cake. The room started emptying out, not in a dramatic rush, but in the deliberate, silent way people leave when they realize they have witnessed something they can never unsee. Kara tried to recover. This is what she does, she said. She manipulates. She planned this. But nobody was listening anymore, because the folder on the table did not contain opinions. It contained timestamps. Proof. The family did not unravel because I mailed a package. The family unraveled because the package put the truth in the center of the room where no one could look away. After the guests left, only the core damage remained. My mother, Kara, Drew, Gerald, Linda. Nobody sat down. The folder lay open on the dining table like an exposed nerve. My mother turned on Kara first. You are her sister, she snapped. You live 10 minutes away. How did you not know? Kara stared at her. Me, are you serious? Right, now you're her mother. You lived 12 minutes away and didn't notice for 19 months. I have health issues, my mother said. What health issues? Kara shot back. Blood pressure. Willem managed your blood pressure. She picked up your prescriptions. She drove you to every appointment. That shut my mother up. Then Gerald turned to Drew. Son, you read those messages. Everyone in this room ignored her. Drew muttered, I'm not talking about everyone. Gerald said, I'm talking about you. Linda shook her head. I didn't raise you to be the kind of man who sees someone reaching out and looks the other way. And I didn't see you calling Willa either, Mom, Drew said quietly. And just like that, the blame ricocheted around the room. Mom blamed Kara. Kara blamed Mom. Gerald blamed Drew. Drew blamed all of them. Linda turned on Gerald for acting morally outraged when he had done nothing himself. They went in circles. Do you know what? Nobody picked up the phone to ask if I was okay. That same night in Portland, I sat on my couch with Naomi watching a documentary about deep-sea creatures while my phone lit up over and over. Mom, Kara, Mom, Kara, Mom again. Naomi glanced at the screen and asked if I was okay. I said it's just family, and she nodded. Didn't pry, didn't demand. Just handed me the bowl of popcorn and let me choose whether or not to open that door. Later, after she left, I listened to 2 new voicemails. My mother was furious that I had humiliated her in her own home in front of people from church. Kara was furious that Drew's parents were barely speaking to them now. Neither voicemail asked how I was. Neither said I miss you. Neither acknowledged why I had sent the folder in the first place. It was still all about the fallout. The next morning over coffee, I told Naomi the truth. I sent them something I said, basically proof. She asked one question. Are they mad at you or mad at each other? Both, I said. But mostly each other. That turned out to be exactly right. Through Maggie, I got updates. There was a group text between my mother, Kara, and Drew. Kara said they needed to decide what to tell people. My mother wanted to say I was unwell. Kara said I wasn't unwell. I was angry. My mother said I had no right to be angry. Drew finally said, actually, I think she does. Kara turned on him immediately. Whose side are you on? Drew answered, there are no sides, there are 214 messages. That was the moment nobody could go back to pretending this was a misunderstanding. Then Drew did something unexpected. He got my number from Maggie and sent me a private text. Willow, I'm sorry. I should have responded to your messages. I don't have an excuse. I just want you to know I see it now. I read that text sitting on my bed while rain tapped against the window. It was the first message from anyone in my family in 19 months that took responsibility without attaching blame to someone else. I did not reply right away, but I did not delete it. A few weeks later, the rest of town found out. That's how it works in a place like ours, not through announcements. through church parking lots and backyard conversations and casseroles delivered with lowered voices. The version of the story that spread was not Willa abandoned her family. The version that spread was her daughter sent 200 messages and nobody answered. She moved across the country and they didn't notice for a year and a half. That story stuck because it was true. My mother started feeling the consequences before anyone said a word to her face. Conversations stopped when she entered a room. The women's ministry at church told her her leadership role was under review. Mrs. Patterson still waved from across the yard but stopped coming over for coffee. No one confronted her directly. They didn't have to. Silence can become a mirror too. Eventually, my mother called Maggie begging her to talk to me. Maggie told her what she had been saying for years. You treat your children like they work for you. For the first time in a very long time, my mother found herself alone in a quiet house, with no one rushing in to fill the silence. Now she knew what that felt like. 3 weeks after the party, Drew called me. I let it ring twice and then answered. He told me Kara didn't know he was calling. He said after seeing the folder he couldn't sleep for 3 days. He admitted he had read my messages for months and done nothing because it was easier to stay passive than to engage. I thanked him for saying it. Then he told me the kids missed me. Lily had drawn a picture with purple flowers. Mason kept asking questions. Oliver still said my name sometimes. That hurt more than anything else because I had loved those kids deeply. But I told Drew the truth. I miss them too, but I am not coming back to fix things that aren't mine to fix. Then I told him exactly what I needed. If we are going to have a relationship going forward, it cannot be because someone needs free child care or emergency help or a planner on demand. If you want me in your life, it has to be because you want me as a person. He said that was fair. A week later, my mother called. I didn't answer, but the voicemail she left was different. No yelling. No accusation. Just a tired voice saying she had sat at the kitchen table and gone through every page in the folder. She mentioned one message specifically. The one where I had texted her that I made her pot roast recipe and wished she were there to try it. She said I saw that one and realized I never answered it. Then she said something I had never heard from her before. I'm not going to say I was wrong because I don't know how to say that. I never learned how, but I saw it, Willa. I saw all of it, and I don't know what to do now. I listened to that voicemail 3 times. It was not an apology, not really. But it was the first message that sounded like a person instead of a warden. Then came Kara. She called on a Thursday. I answered because I wanted to know if there was anything underneath the outrage. She started with, I don't understand why you did this, which part I asked all of it. Leaving, sending the package, humiliating Mom in front of everyone, so I asked her a question. Do you want me to list some of the messages I sent you? She tried to dismiss it. I was busy. I have 3 kids, so I started listing them anyway. September 12, I asked if you wanted to take the kids apple picking. October 3, I asked how Mason's ear infection was. November 20, I asked if you needed help with Thanksgiving. December 24, I sent you a picture of Oliver's present before I wrapped it. January 15, I checked on you because you seemed tired at first. She kept trying to interrupt. Then she stopped. Then I said the part she needed to hear most. I know you have 3 kids. I know you're exhausted. I was there for 7 years. I picked up Lily and Mason. I watched all 3 of them every Saturday. I planned every birthday. I held Oliver when he had colic so you could sleep. I know exactly how hard your life is because I helped carry it. She started crying. Not dramatic crying, not angry crying, the kind that comes when a defense finally collapses. I told her I loved her children. Then I told her I was not her backup plan anymore. If she wanted a relationship with me, it had to start with seeing me as a person and not a service. She asked what Mom was supposed to think. I asked her one last question. What do you think? She didn't answer. She hung up. That night I wrote an email to all 3 of them. My mother, Kara, Drew, subject line where I stand. I wrote it like a project brief. Clear, direct. No cushioning. I told them I was safe and living in Portland. I told them I had left because no one in the family saw me as a person. Only a function. a babysitter, a driver, a planner, a mediator. I told them I was open to rebuilding relationships, but not the old ones and not on the old terms. Then I laid out my conditions. No guilt trips, no voicemails about what I owed. No using the children as leverage. No social media posts about me. If any of those boundaries were crossed, I would extend no contact indefinitely. And then I ended with the hardest truth I had ever written. I love you. That is why I tried 214 times before I left. But love without respect is not love. It is a job, and I quit. I sent it. Then I put on my coat and went for a walk in the rain. Later, Maggie told me what happened after they read it. My mother forwarded it to Kara with one bitter line. Who does she think she is? And for the first time in her life, Kara did not answer her. Not right away. Something had shifted. My mother's world kept shrinking. At church, she moved from the front pew to the back. No one told her to. She just felt the room change around her. Mrs. Patterson stopped dropping by. The women's ministry quietly froze her leadership role, and then practical life began catching up with her. Without me, she had to remember her own appointments, pick up her own prescriptions, cook her own meals, manage her own schedule. She called Kara asking for rides and help, and more than once Kara said, "I can't, Mom, I'm busy," and every time she said it, the truth got a little harder to avoid. Welcome to my world. Kara's life changed too. Without me, she had to do what I had been doing behind the scenes for years. School lunches, soccer practice, dentist appointments, bedtime routines, grocery runs. Doctor forms, all of it. One night at her mommy group, another woman casually asked, "Is it true your sister sent 200 texts?" And nobody answered. Kara said it was complicated. The other woman replied no. 200 texts isn't complicated. That's someone begging to be seen. Kara came home early that night. A month after Oliver's party, this was the state of the family. My mother and Kara were barely speaking. Drew and Gerald had gone quiet with each other. Kara and Drew were still married, but speaking mostly in logistics. Who's picking up Mason? Did you pay the electric bill? What time is Oliver's appointment? The warmth between them had thinned out. And the irony was impossible to ignore. The package had not created any new truth. Every message in that folder had already existed. I didn't invent anything. I just printed it and placed it where no one could deny it. The family didn't break because of me. It broke because of what they did when they thought no one was watching. Months passed. I kept building my life in Portland. My calendar changed color. Saturday hikes with Naomi. Wednesday pottery classes where my bowls stopped collapsing. Monthly dinners with friends. Evenings blocked off for reading and cooking experiments and long baths. Every entry on my calendar belonged to me. At work, Helen promoted me to senior project manager with a 12% raise. She told me I was the most reliable person on the team. I signed the letter and smiled and did not explain where reliability like mine comes from. Some skills are forged in places you do not survive unchanged. Maggie became a constant in my life. We FaceTimed regularly. She drank wine in her Pennsylvania kitchen and asked how it felt to finally have a life that belonged to me. I told her it felt unfamiliar. Then I told her it also felt good. And it did. Drew kept sending occasional updates. A photo of Lily at a school play, a video of Oliver laughing on a swing, a message saying Mason lost his first tooth and thought I'd want to know. No requests, no guilt, just moments. After a while I answered, "Thank you, they're getting so big," that was all. Not a reunion, not forgiveness, just the first small window opening. 6 months after the package, I got one short email from my mother. "I'm working on myself. That's all I can say right now." I didn't respond, but I saved it. Because progress does not always arrive with clean language or dramatic apologies. Sometimes it arrives small and awkward and years late. As for Kara, I heard through Drew that she had finally hired a babysitter. A paid one, twice a week. She started managing her own calendar, doing her own grocery runs. Carrying the daily weight of the life she had spent years sliding onto me. Drew said it was the hardest thing she had ever done. I believed him. One evening in October, I stood in my kitchen in Portland making my mother's pot roast recipe. The apartment smelled like what home should have smelled like all along. Carrots, onion, thyme, red wine. Slow cooked for hours. Naomi came over for dinner and stopped in the doorway. "That smells incredible," she said. "Where did you learn to make that, my mom?" I said, and for the first time there was no bitterness in saying it. Just truth. We ate at my table with cloth napkins Naomi had found at a thrift store, and 2 glasses of wine and soft music in the background, and after dinner when I stood at the sink washing dishes, I had a strange flash of memory. I was 14 again, hands in warm water, standing in a kitchen, but everything else was different. This was my home. This was my meal. This was my choice. And when I turned around, someone looked at me and said, "Thank you." 2 words I had waited 17 years to hear without having to earn them through exhaustion. Later that night, I picked up my phone and typed a message to my mother. "I made your pot roast tonight. It turned out good." I stared at it for a long moment. Then I hit send. A few minutes later, she replied, "I'm glad, sweetheart, that was it. No guilt. No demand. No when are you coming home, just warmth, small, careful, incomplete, but real enough for that moment. And I need to tell you this clearly. I did not leave to punish my family. I left because I needed to find out whether I existed outside of what I did for them. I needed to know whether anyone would notice if I stopped showing up. The answer took 19 months. Not one call, not one birthday text, not one knock on the door from 12 minutes away. That answer hurt. But it was honest, and I would rather live with an honest pain than spend the rest of my life inside a comforting lie. The package was not revenge. I didn't write an angry letter. I didn't accuse. I didn't exaggerate. I simply mailed back the truth they had already received and ignored. A mirror. That is all it was. And when they looked into it, they did not see a villain. They saw themselves. So if you are the person in your family who keeps everything together, the one who remembers birthdays and plans holidays and books appointments and calms fights and always answers the phone, I need you to hear this. Your value is not measured by how useful you are. You are not a function. You are not a service. You are a person. And if the people around you cannot tell the difference, that is not your burden to carry forever. Set boundaries, even if they call you selfish. Especially if they call you selfish. Because the people who accuse you of selfishness for having needs are almost always the people who benefited most from you having none. I'm Willa Mayers. I'm 33 years old. I live in Portland, Oregon. And for the first time in my life, if I disappeared, somebody would notice. That's my story. If it hit close to home, leave a comment and tell me this. Are you the Willa in your family? Or did this story make you realize there might be a Willa in your life that you've been overlooking? Either way, I'd love to hear from you. And remember this. Your silence does not always mean you are okay. Sometimes it just means nobody asked. Thank you for listening.